Have you ever wondered what role the Supreme Court plays in determining a person's eligibility for a position of power? It's a question that's come to the forefront of many people's minds in recent years. The Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, is not just another judicial body. Its main function is to interpret the United States Constitution, the document that serves as the foundation of American democracy. In the context of eligibility, the Supreme Court can wield a significant influence. For instance, the interpretation of constitutional clauses related to age, citizenship, and residency requirements for the presidency can directly shape who is considered eligible for this powerful position. This interpretation, however, is not limited to the presidency. It extends to numerous other roles, from members of Congress to local government officials. In essence, the Supreme Court acts as a final arbiter in interpreting the Constitution, including matters of eligibility. Now, imagine a scenario in which the Supreme Court must discuss the eligibility of a former president. Let's paint a picture of a hypothetical timeline of events that could lead us to this point. Our story starts with a former president, having served 1 or 2 terms in the past, deciding to throw their hat back in the ring. They announce their intention to run for office again, much to the surprise of the nation. This announcement is met with a mix of astonishment, excitement, and controversy. As the news circulates, legal scholars begin to question the constitutionality of this decision. They point out that the 22nd Amendment, ratified in 1951, stipulates that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. However, the language leaves some room for interpretation. Could a former president, after a hiatus, be eligible once more? This debate gains traction, and soon enough, a legal challenge is filed against the former president's eligibility. The case winds its way through the lower courts, with judges on both sides offering differing interpretations of the Constitution. The nation watches on, captivated by the unfolding legal drama. Eventually, the case lands on the doorstep of the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. It is now up to the justices to decide whether a former president can indeed run for the highest office again. The court agrees to hear the case, marking a historic moment in American jurisprudence. As the date of the Supreme Court hearing approaches, legal experts and political pundits dissect every possible angle. The former president, undeterred by the controversy, continues their campaign, arguing that the people should have the right to choose their leader, regardless of past terms served. At this point, the Supreme Court would need to take a close look at the Constitution and past cases to make a ruling. What follows is a thorough examination of the Constitution, prior court decisions, and the intent of the framers, all under the watchful eyes of an anxious nation. So, what exactly would the Supreme Court consider in such a discussion? The Supreme Court, as the highest judicial body in the United States, would delve into a few key areas when determining a person's eligibility for a particular role. Let's unpack these. Firstly, the justices would turn to the Constitution, the ultimate guide and rulebook for all American governance matters. Specifically, they would scrutinize the relevant amendments and clauses that pertain to the eligibility criteria. Past Supreme Court rulings would also come into play, setting precedents that may influence the course of their deliberations. Beyond the Constitution, the Supreme Court would also examine past legal interpretations. This includes how lower courts have interpreted similar clauses or cases, and the legal reasoning they used to arrive at their decisions. The justices would weigh these interpretations against the Constitution's text and their understanding of its framers' intent. The court would also consider the legal arguments presented by both sides. Each side would have the opportunity to present their case, explaining why they believe the Constitution supports their viewpoint. The court would then evaluate these arguments, considering their merits and how they align with the Constitution and past legal precedent. In addition to these, the justices would also consider the potential implications of their decision. They would be aware that their ruling could set a precedent that would shape future interpretations of the Constitution. They would consider how their decision might affect the balance of powers among the 3 branches of government: the executive, legislative, and judicial. Finally, the court would also contemplate the societal and political implications of their decision. They would consider how their ruling might influence public perception of the court and its role in American democracy. Ultimately, the Supreme Court's ruling would have a significant impact not only on the individual in question, but also on the interpretation of the Constitution moving forward. In conclusion, the Supreme Court plays a crucial role in interpreting the Constitution and determining eligibility. As we've journeyed through the chronology of events, we've underscored the court's significant role and the key points of discussion in the hypothetical case of a former president's eligibility. The court's interpretation of the Constitution, its understanding of eligibility based on precedents, and its final decision all shape our understanding of the Constitution. Remember, the Supreme Court's decisions shape our understanding of the Constitution and have lasting implications for the future of our nation.